Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of It Came From Beyond the Video Store Shelves. And we have another VHS tape from deep in the vault for you guys this week. And on this episode, we're going to go all the way back to 1971. And we're going to check out this biker flick, Chrome and Hot Leather. Now, this particular VHS release is going to be a Orion home video, which I always kind of liked the Orion releases because a lot of them had this kind of two-tone VHS tape where they had the red, flaps right here on the tape itself, which I always thought was kind of cool, just to give it that little bit of flair in your collection. But yeah, this is one that I picked up a while back. When I bought this movie, of course, at the time I never heard of it. But I did not think this was a movie when I picked it up. I didn't know it was an actual film. Um, what I thought this was going to be a digital magazine is I think what they would call them, in the 80s and stuff like that when companies were putting stuff, you know, tapes of that nature out, uh, either a digital magazine or a video magazine or whatever. I thought this was something that was put out by, companies like Easy Rider. And I got that mainly from the name and just the appearance and the outlook of this cover. Um, and if you don't know what Easy Rider is, Easy Rider was, not only was it a movie, but it was also a biker magazine. It was a publication. Um, you know, when I was a teenager, way back in the day, you didn't have internet. It wasn't easy to get on your phone and get on, any of these apps and see half naked and completely naked women. If you wanted to look at pornography, especially if you was underage, you had to resort to magazines. It wasn't easy to get, women to show you themselves. So you would have to buy adult magazines, things like Playboy and Hustler and all that kind of stuff. But if you were underage, you couldn't just go to the store and buy this, right? It was just like alcohol and cigarettes and shit. You had to be, 18 or 21 or whatever to buy these magazines. But if you were savvy, there were ways to get around that. And the way you did that was you would go to the gas station and you would pick up either a lowrider magazine with lowrider vehicles, or you would get Easy Rider, which was the biker magazine, which marketed themselves and were, to be fair, motorcycle or car enthusiast magazines, but stuff like Easy Rider also had a tendency to put nude women in their magazine as well, posing with bikes and stuff. So that's kind of why Easy Rider was popular, when I was in high school and stuff, is because you could just go to the gas station and buy an adult magazine underage. Um, and the cover of Easy Rider, a lot of them was kind of like this kind of style where it would just be kind of not really abstract, but you know slightly edited motorcycle shit. So that's really what I thought this was, because Easy Rider did do a lot of video magazines that you could buy, and it would be like motorcycle rallies and stuff like that. Um, But yeah, this had a cool cover. It looked out there. So, I picked it up, and to my surprise, I found out that this was actually a film from 1971. So, let's get into a little bit about what chrome and hot leather is all about. So, basically, um, you have this guy named Mitch, and Mitch is in the army, and he's kind of doing his thing or whatever, and he's excited to get out because he's going to get out of the army, and he plans on marrying his high school sweetheart. The problem with that is his woman and a friend of hers ends up coming into contact with this biker gang when they're driving their car. They're driving their car down the road, and they come up to this biker gang, the Wizards, and they're fucking off. They're going slow, and she wants to go around this biker gang, and they're kind of toying with her. They're taunting her. They're blocking her in. They're not letting her pass, and she gets a little freaked out. So what she decides to do is she's gonna just hit the fucking gas and try to get away from this situation. She's gonna try to get herself out of this situation. Um, and in doing so, she ends up running one of these bikers off of his motorcycle, and he's riding on his motorcycle with his woman, and she ends up running this guy off the road, and he wrecks, and that really pisses him off. So he ends up chasing after these women, and he has this chain, like a just a regular chain on him, and he begins to hit this windshield of this vehicle, with this big ass fucking steel chain, and she loses control, and she ends up driving off the side of this big ass cliff mountain that they're on, and of course, both these young ladies die, and Mitch ends up getting word of what happened, of his fiance passing, and he takes leave from the army with a couple of his buddies, and they go down for the funeral, and Mitch decides that the local sheriff is not doing his part. They're not doing everything to find these guys. So he decides that he's going to get this sheriff to deputize him and his buddies, and he's going to solve this murder himself. And basically, you know, that's exactly what happens. Mitch is riding around with his buddies. They end up going and buying some motorcycles. Not really bikers. They didn't get like Harley Davidsons or anything like that. They ended up going grab. If I remember right, it was like Yamahas, and they start asking around, and they're gonna track these guys down, and they're gonna get these dudes that murdered his fiance. And the whole time this is playing out, there's also kind of a power struggle going on between these bikers, because you have this biker gang. You have TJ, and TJ is like the leader. He's supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to be handling everything. And then you have Casey, and Casey is kind of a little off the rails. And Casey is the guy who murdered these girls, and he was also the main biker that was taunting these women in the first place. He was the first one that was kind of harassing these ladies. So, TJ is not too happy that this went down. He's not really happy with Casey. He feels like Casey is to blame for what happened, and now he's to blame with all of this heat that they're getting, because now they've come to realize that they have these guys, these soldiers that's tracking them down, that's asking questions. So anyway, Mitch ends up coming across a couple of these guys. This biker gang, half of the riders split off and they had to go refuel. And Mitch runs across these guys and he decides to follow them back to their clubhouse. They have this ballroom where they hang out and they drink and they party and shit, and they also have this little house. And Mitch ends up infiltrating, this clubhouse, pretending to be a biker, and he ends up seducing a female member of this biker crew, and she ends up spilling all the beans on what actually happened. So now Mitch knows who killed his wife and what happened and everything. And he decides that, he's going to round these guys up and he's going to turn them all in and make sure that they pay for their crime. So, they end up finding out who Mitch is, and they start beating the shit out of him, and they're going to keep him captive and stuff. Just in time, Mitch's army buddies show up and they're able to rescue him and they get away. And now, the bikers leave and they go hide in the canyons. And now Mitch and his buddies, they end up going back to the army base and they lie, to this guy, to this soldier who's running inventory. And they say they need a shitload of equipment to do this mission. So they basically steal a big ass army truck and fucking missile launchers and all kind of shit from this army base, and they go into the hills to find this biker gang. And basically that's what they do. They set up outposts and they got these bomb launchers and missiles and all kind of shit, and they bomb the fuck out of this biker gang to round them up. But that was kind of weird, is that they don't actually like kill none of this biker gang. They're launching fucking bombs and missiles and all kind of shit and grenades and shit all around the vicinity of this gang, kind of pooling them together like cattle, and then they're gonna go in and chase everybody down and get them all arrested and all this shit, which in the end they end up doing. And that's pretty much the whole deal of Chrome and Hot Leather. It wasn't a bad flick. It definitely had some things going against it that we'll get to. But I'm probably going to give this... I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And, a high 5. Maybe even a 5.5. Because I did enjoy the movie. I think it could have been better. It definitely needed a different name. Chrome and Hot Leather is just kind of a stupid name. It really has nothing to do with the movie itself. They were obviously just trying to phone in and take advantage of the biker craze, especially when you had, huge biker movies like Easy Rider and shit like that. So, definitely with this cover and everything, it was kind of marketed towards that demographic and stuff, which they could have went with this cover, but they could have definitely picked a much better name for this film. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. The one thing that I really wished would have been different is it was kind of it was a very PG movie, if that's the nice way to say it. You know, there were some violence and stuff in it. You know, there was some sexual situations, but I think the movie would have really benefited if they went all out grindhouse. You know, if he killed a couple people, if they had a little bit of gore in there, um, definitely had the chance and the opportunity to go grindhouse and get real nasty with it, and they just didn't go there. Um, which is nice. I mean, not every movie has to be all out, you know, balls to the wall and shit like that. Um, this one decided to keep it, you know, mild, which is fine. Like I said, it was still an enjoyable movie. I really enjoyed the time I spent watching this, even if it's, you know, kind of an overdone story. To be fair, in 1971, it wasn't that overdone, you know, but in the coming years, that kind of, you know, versus a biker gang thing was done a whole bunch. Um, but yeah, it was a pretty decent movie, man. It was well acted out and stuff. The script was fine, um, and they also had some pretty familiar faces that you could catch in the crowd. In fact, um, you know, soul and R&B singer Marvin Gay is in this film. He plays one of Mitch's army buddies, and actually does a pretty decent job acting. I was surprised because his name is not on this box anywhere, and I haven't seen many movies with Marvin Gaye in it. Um, and of course, I would, you know, find out that Marvin Gaye only really made two movies before, you know, he was killed by his father. So this is one of the only two movies that Marvin Gaye starred in. If you are a Marvin Gaye fan, it is kind of interesting to watch him, you know, ride around through mud pits on a motorcycle and shit, you know. And he actually does, like I said, he does a pretty good job acting. And there's also a couple familiar faces that you see hiding amongst this biker gang. You know, you have Eric Estrada, which, of course, was huge, became a huge star in the 80s with Chips, or Estrada Arnada if you're a My Name is Earl fan from the 90s. Um, he was in this film. And also, you have Grizzly Adams was in this as well. It's Dan Haggerty was played a biker in this film as well, which, you know, Dan was in a bunch of stuff, and you know, Dan really has that kind of biker look too, you know. But yeah, it was a pretty cool film. You know, I enjoyed watching it. It's definitely worth checking out if you're into that kind of, you know, if you want to watch something that has that grindhouse feel to it, like that dirty '70s cinema, you know, if you into that kind of thing, you would enjoy this. If you want to watch something that's a little dirty feeling, but also, you know, mild and not graphic, and there's not a whole bunch of nudity in it, you know. If you want something you could possibly watch with, you know, the wife and kids and stuff, if they're not into watching, you know, super grindhousey stuff. Chrome and Hot Leather was pretty decent, man. It's a pretty decent film. Um, I don't know how common or, you know, rare that this flick is to track down on VHS. Like I said, this is just something I randomly ran into at a thrift store. You know, I thought it looked interesting. I like buying um, just weird tapes and like one-off stuff. Like I said, video magazines or like old how-to tapes and stuff like that. I enjoy picking those up because you pretty much know that, stuff like that, no one's gonna go out of their way to put that on like a DVD or a Blu-ray or something. So there's a lot of shit that's kind of just lost in the in the black hole that is VHS. And that's what I thought I was getting with this. Ended up being an actual film, a pretty damn good film. Um, so yeah, check out Chrome and Hot Leather if you have the chance. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this. If you track it down and do watch it, I'm sure this is streaming somewhere. Most of these older '70s films is pretty much streaming everywhere for free, because most of the people involved in this isn't getting massive fucking royalty checks anymore. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this week, man. We'll be back next week with another episode. We still have tons of tapes to go through. So yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to comment below. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We're gonna keep doing this, and we'll keep chipping away at this massive collection, bro. So yeah, take it easy. Until next time, man. I'll see you guys later.